Okay, there we go. So everything I just said, right? Sorry, I forgot to push record. But when we are so we're going to do some forward folds today. And when we do this, we want to make sure that we have a lot of strength and integrity of our vertebral column so that we're not smushing in weird ways when we come into forward bends. So think less about coming down toward your knees and more about creating space and length and coming forward. The cueing is always I always offer the cueing toward that goal, but I just want you to know why it's not so good to sink and collapse into a forward fold. And then one other aspect of it, besides keeping that elongated spine, you need muscular support to do this. So when we have the paraspinal muscles, the muscles that go along our vertebrae, as well as our core muscles, that transverse abdominis that kind of hugs us in toward the midline. When all of these muscles are stiffening and engaging, it gives a lot of support for the column of our vertebrae to keep that elongation when we move forward or backward. So very important to use your core and your paraspinal muscles to help you along the way. And then the second thing, specifically when you're bending forward, you can use your legs as a support as well. So there's this thing, it's called reciprocal inhibition. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but when you have antagonistic muscle groups where one muscle, like when your bicep flexes, your tricep has to lengthen. And when your tricep flexes, your bicep has to lengthen. So they are antagonistic to each other. You can simultaneously engage, but that's more of an isometric thing. So with our legs, when we're bending forward, if we engage our quadricep muscles, they're antagonistic to our hamstring muscles. So our hamstring muscles will naturally lengthen if we engage our quads. This happens in your nervous system. It's just part of our nervous system input of how our musculoskeletal system works. So engaging your quads when you're bending forward is a really great way to give the cue to your hamstrings. Oh, time to let go. So always remember those reciprocal relationships on anterior and posterior surfaces of your body, or inferior and superior, anything that's opposite actions. So, okay, that's enough of the science of what we're gonna do, but I just cautionary tale, because when you do forward bends and if you have some trouble with those discs in your back, it can aggravate it. So you just want to make sure that you're coming with this nice long spine and supportive architecture of your musculature, and using that reciprocal inhibition to help you in good posture. All right. Now, emotionally, forward bend's such a gift, right? When you feel stressed and we rest our head on our hand, or we curl into this forward bending fold, it's such a soothing quality for our nervous system. It's very nurturing and calming. So this is, why you would choose to offer like a sequence of forward bends. Besides just the every day, we should always be doing all directions a little bit. Okay, enough talking. Sorry. Okay, let's find our ground. So find a comfortable seat and just take a moment to kind of wiggle around a little bit on your seat. Maybe do some little circles, kind of check in where is your grounding root of your pelvis. Okay, notice your sit bones, and let's take a moment to kind of roll forward and back, maybe like a little bit of a seated cat-cow. So you can really just get to know where your pelvis is and where you're bearing weight when we come to sit. So now find a comfortable seat on your support, whether it's a bolster or blankets, blocks, whatever it is, and root your sit bones. See if you can sense that balance in your pelvis where you're not tipping forward or tipping back. You're just in this nice neutral place. And from there, widen first before you find all this reaching in your body. Just get broad in your legs and your pelvis. Feel your roots. And when you have that sense of grounding and stability, pay attention to your spine and start to, fluff up your vertebrae and your discs so that you have a lot of floating space. And your core can support this. You don't have to grip and guard and clench, but you can have a sense of activeness, activity in the core of your body and along your paraspinal muscles. Allow your ribs to settle in a good place where they're not pushing forward or drawing back, but at just a nice neutral territory. Allow your shoulder blades to slide down so that your heart can open without pushing your chest or pushing your ribs forward. And then check in with the balance of your head. Our heads are heavy. Where are you over your pelvis, or do you tend to lean forward? Do you tend to lean back? Do you tend to tip your head or your body to one side? Just kind of notice your patterning of self-support. When you feel aligned well, tune into your breath. Just take a moment to notice how you are breathing. Can you let your diaphragm move so that core strength that helps us support our spine is mobile and free? We can feel a belly expansion and a belly condensement. Okay, so there's waves with our breath. Or dynamic in our structural support. As you breathe, can you not only feel the 360 of your diaphragm moving, but can you feel the accommodation of your shoulder blades and your arms giving way to the breath as well? When you feel ready, let's bring our hands to our heart and offer an intention here. Just notice this mudra. Notice what it feels like in your body to have your palms together at your heart. Release your hands and let's find our way onto our back. Right, so as you come to lie down, always appreciate a moment of being horizontal. We spend so much of the day moving around and standing, and hopefully not too much sitting, but fair amount of sitting too. So when we return to that horizontal, it's such a beautiful shifting of the fluids in our body. So just take a moment before doing a stretch to just feel the change happening, to notice what happens when you change your position. What happens to your blood pressure? What happens to your sense of groundedness, the feeling of the ground? Okay. All right, and then let's stretch our arms overhead and enjoy just reaching and finding some nice, beautiful length through one side and through the other side, and just opening up. All right, then bring your knees into your chest and let's rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Okay. All right, and then hang on to the knees and let's roll, kind of rolling one direction, rolling another direction, and just feeling into the ease of your low back and your hips. Kind of take a notice. How are you feeling today? And then let's open up our knees away from the middle and bring them back in. So you just feel the sense of ease moving through your hip joints. Then your right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and let's roll around in your ankles and wiggle through your toes and feel some movement. Let your head get heavy, rest it down. And then switch sides, left knee into your chest, right leg long on the ground, and let's move about and wiggle your toes. Feeling your head relax, your shoulders relax, opening up your feet. And then stretch to a star, reaching your limbs really wide. Let's roll around in our wrists and our ankles, so kind of feeling the edges of your body. And then as you're ready, draw your knees in. Pick up your head, a nice little squeeze. One more time, opening big and wide. Exhale, drawing in. All right, put your feet down onto the ground. Let's windshield wiper our knees. Okay. Feel free to just breathe. You can move your head in opposition of your knees. All right, and then a little bit of a deeper twist. Lift up your hips, scoot them to the right. Knees come up, drop them to the left, and open up into your twist here. Turn your head if it feels nice. Big breaths. And back up. Let's scoot the hips over to the left. Knees come up, drop them to the right, twisting open. Full breaths in, full breaths away. And then come back to center. Let's cross right thigh over left thigh. Open up your hips a little bit. Draw your knees toward your chest. You can be still or you can do a little movement, whatever feels right. Be very mindful to rest your head on the ground. So easy for us to pick up tension in our neck and shoulders, let them go. And then reach your legs straight up in the air. And first start with your arms down at your sides. And let's point and flex our feet here. Breathing deeply. All right, and then just stay neutral here for a minute. Start to feel your core support your spine. Okay, keep the arms down at your sides. Knit your ribs down toward the ground, kind of waking up that cylinder of support around the core of our body. And then bend your knees and put your feet on the ground. Cross your left thigh over your right and draw your knees into your chest. Maybe a little stillness, maybe a little movement. What feels good? Allow your head to relax and breathe. Stretch open one more time to a star on the ground, reaching your limbs wide. Exhale, drawing your knees in, and let's roll to your side. Coming up onto your hands and your knees, and feeling your way into the ground. So find some roots. And when you feel ready, you can start moving through some cat-cows, arching your back, rounding the spine, enjoying your mobility, breathing deeply. And after some feeling your way through your vertebrae here, let's move around. You can wag your tail and just try to loosen up your ribs and your hips, your head, any kind of movement through your spine that feels really good. All right, and then drop back towards child's pose. Walk the hands forward. Stretch open into an open shouldered pose. Feel a deep compression in your hips. Breathe down the length of your spine. All right, let's walk our hands over to the left and feel some weight drop down into our pelvis. Feeling the shoulder expand and open. Breathing well. Over to the other side, feeling into a nice drop in your hips, opening up your side body, breathing deep. And come back to center. Back up onto all fours, and let's find a twist here. Reaching one arm up in the air. Exhale, drop the shoulder down. So every day, it's important to find a little bit of your spinal movements. So, you don't have to do an hour of yoga or other mobility practices, but even just a few minutes of some cat-cows and a twist and a lateral bend can do wonders for keeping that suppleness of your spine. All right, and reach that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Arm lifting high. Exhale and drop that shoulder down. Breathing well. Let the base of the skull relax. Enjoy your breath. And inhale, bring that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground, and let's find a dog pose. So as you stretch out and lengthen in your body, this is an opportunity for us to feel into that reaching of your spine, finding its length, creating lots of space. Because gravity is changing its direction on us, this is also a beautiful thing. We can have a little new perspective in the space between our vertebrae and the lengthening of our spine. Root to rise. Feel free to pedal your feet here, starting to open up your calves, opening up the soles of your feet. Find your way into a deep sense of ground. Root to rise. Relax your neck. And then we'll come down onto all fours again. All right, so come down onto your back for a moment. We're just going to wake up some of those paraspinal muscles. Have your feet on the ground, and we're just going to isometrically drag our pelvis a little bit. So rooted four corners of your feet hip width apart. Let's just practice first, just knowing a posterior and an anterior tilt. So lift the top of the sacrum away from the floor and dip the bottom of the tail down toward the ground. So anterior tilt, you might feel your low back lift off the ground. And then posterior tilt, allow your low back to move toward the ground. Top of sacrum moves into the ground, tail lifts up. So that's a posterior tilt of the pelvis. One more time, anterior tilt of the pelvis. Low back lifts off the ground, top of sacrum off the ground, sit bones and tail ground. And then change directions. One more time, posterior tilt, low back into the ground, sit bones up, tail up. Try not to squeeze your butt cheeks too much, okay? All right, relax neutral for here. Now you should have a tiniest little gap in your low back. So, if you had your hand under your back, you'd feel a little gap in the small of your back. That's a neutral curve. So we don't want to smush our low back into the ground in this pose. We want to keep that neutral curve. So we're not in the anterior or posterior. All right, so first, let's just turn on those paraspinal muscles. So drag your pelvic, your sacrum toward your shoulders. And just see, we're going to light up some of those low back muscles. And then relax back to neutral. You can even go into a slight posterior tilt. And then one more time. We're dragging our sacrum toward our shoulders. We're not popping into an arch in our low back. Our low back might lift a little bit, but that's not the goal. The goal is to drag the sacrum toward the shoulders. Relax. And one more time, just turning on some of those multifidus muscles, multifidi. Those are the muscles that connect one vertebrae to the next. All right, relax that. Grab a block and stick it between your thighs, any width or wherever you want it to be, so that you can just maintain hip width apart with some support. Hug into the block, ground the four corners of your feet, and do this on your exhale, and then release on your inhale. So just a few block squeezes. It may seem counterintuitive to do it on your exhale, but try your best to coordinate your breath with the movement. Feet are grounded. Hug the block on your exhales. Lots of core. We're coordinating our inner thighs, our pelvic floor, and our transverse abdominis. Notice if you have one leg that feels like it's in charge of this movement, and one leg that feels like it's the follower. And if you find that, try to balance things out. Just a few pulses on the breath. Exhale as you engage, and inhale as you release. Nice and subtle. This is a great way to just find your transverse abdominis, to notice how these muscles hug on to the spine. All right, relax that block and lift your legs straight up in the air. This time, unlike when we did it in our warm up, let's take our arms overhead. And if that's too much, bring them down at your sides or out to the sides. Draw your ribs down. You can still have a slight curve in your low back, but you can also move the low back toward the ground. Feel your core hug on to your spine, 360. Find your breath, long spine, supported spine, deep breathing. All right, and then draw your knees into your chest, roll over onto your side, and come up onto your hands and your knees. Okay. All right, let's find our way to a bird dog. So we're going to take our right leg straight back behind us in the air. Start to turn on your glutes and your hamstrings. Press your shin into the ground. Let's take the left arm up. Find that stability, front and back body. There's a lot of musculature working here. Root into the ground. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, hug underneath, elbow and knee. Inhale, bring it on out. Exhale, bring it in. Move nice and slow, move with your breath. One more time on that exhale, draw your elbow and knee underneath you. And then when you're ready, you can place that hand and knee down onto the ground and just move around. Any kind of movement in your spine that you want. And we'll switch sides when you're ready. Left leg is up, glutes and hamstring and core and back body are engaged. Straighten that right arm out in the air. Thumb up, toes down. Find your core strength. So it's not just the glutes and leg that's holding you up, but your core too. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, hug underneath. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to draw in. Press that hand and shin. Use your core. And put that foot down onto the ground. And let's come back and just find a child's pose. Open up the back body. Breathing well. Hands down onto the ground, curl your toes under and lift to a dog. Extending through your body, root to rise. Let's pedal the feet again. Find your breath. Let's take our feet mat width apart. So we create lots of room in the pelvic floor, lots of room in the low belly for your breath. And then find neutral again and walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Grab some blocks. All right, find your way to a halfway lift. So let's extend and lengthen here. Legs are straight. Open up the backs of the knees. Let's try a little bit of that reciprocal inhibition. So engage your quads and notice your hamstrings open up. Feel your core support your spine as you reach forward. Ground through the four corners of your feet. Spread your feet. You should feel the stretch all the way to the bottom of your feet. Feel the sit bones lift, the thigh bones move back. Engage the quads so we're lifting the kneecaps. And then exhale and melt and let things release a little bit. Feel gravity take your spine for a long ride down toward the ground. Release your head, bobble your head a little bit. One more time for a halfway lift. Opening up through the spine, support with your core, femur bones up and back, engage your quads, spread open your feet, sit bones high. A little inner spiral of your thighs. Okay, on your next exhale, melt down again. This time grab your head, the base of your skull, with the base of your hands, and let's just have a little bit of a tug. Make sure your knees are bent so we're protecting our back here. And then draw your chin slightly in toward your chest and feel those paraspinal muscles open up. All right, and then relax that. Come to a halfway lift. Let's pause here. We've been down with our head down for a while. So from here, we'll slowly come on up. Bring your hands onto your knees like a modified chair pose. We're just letting our blood pressure accommodate that change of direction. And then when you feel ready, come up to stand. Okay, standing in Tadasana. Ground your feet. See what it feels like. You've already activated a lot of muscles. Can you feel your spine and core muscles alive and active in your body? Take a deep breath in, reach your arms up, leaning back if it feels nice. Let's cactus, open the arms and feel a good chest stretch. Feel your shoulders. Exhale, round in, spread your shoulder blades, tuck your chin. Inhale, up one more time. Cactus those arms. And then exhale and ground in. Okay. Release the hands, give them a shake. You can interlace your hands behind your back or grab a strap if you can't comfortably open up your shoulders with your hands interclasped. And we're going to lean forward and just stretch the back and stretch the fronts of your shoulders. Bend your knees a lot. Let your neck dangle. Full breaths here. Enjoy opening up the fronts of your shoulders. And then relax your arms down. Inhale for a halfway lift again. Melt to fold. Step back to a dog. Feel that length in your body, root to rise. Feel the hamstrings opening up a little bit more. Stretch the heels back toward the wall behind you and then down. Open the four corners of your feet. Keep lifting the sit bones. Engage your quads. Let's come forward into a plank. Finding that sense of sturdiness. We've already kind of found it a little bit in some other postures. Let's find that transverse abdominis wrapping around our torso. Stiffen your spine with your muscles. Breathing deep. Okay, let's put our knees down onto the ground. Find the earth. Roll your shoulders a couple of times. And then let's open up some, or strengthen some of those paraspinal muscles again. Inhale, lifting to a cobra, opening the front of the vertebrae. Exhale, melting back down. So remember, we're not compressing the back body. Engage your core before lifting up. So there's a stiffening support for your spine. So we're not sinking and compressing. Melt to come back down. Okay. Arms out in front of you, thumbs up. Legs hip width apart. Let's lift your right leg and your left arm. So find that cross hemisphere work just like in bird dog. Engage your core, navel to spine, pubic bone up. Exhale and relax. Switching sides. Left leg, right arm. Feel those paraspinal muscles, your glutes, everything's sharing that crisscross across your back from one shoulder to the opposite hip. And then exhale and release. Repeat. Okay, first side, right leg, left arm. Find those paraspinal muscles. Exhale and melt. One more time. Left leg, right arm. Exhale and relax. Come up onto all fours. Wiggle around in your spine. Wag your tail. Take your left foot straight back behind you. Curl your toes under. Cross that left foot over to the right and turn and look at your foot. Opening up that QL, one side of your low back opening. Back to center, switch sides. Other leg out, cross it over, turn and look. Notice if the two sides feel different. Whenever we do asymmetry, pay attention to how your body feels from one side to the other. Back to center, child's pose. Feel your low back open up. Breathe through your spine. And let's lift into a dog pose. Feel that extension and length. Full breath in. Full breath away. We're going to bring our right foot forward, come to a lunge. Ground your legs, open up through your heart. Let's bend and straighten the front knee. Okay, so as you go, we're obviously opening the hip flexors of the back leg and the hamstrings of the front, but see if you can keep your spine spacious so we're not collapsing and rounding. That's why we have the blocks under our hands to keep us long. Can your core stay engaged through this to support your spine in this? Can you find a teeny bit of an inner spiral of that front leg? Round yourself, root down, rise up, crescent lunge, open up through your body, breathing deeply. And let's engage those paraspinal muscles one more time. Cactus, open your chest, feel the back body. And then we'll press forward, and you get to decide whether your arms are overhead, out to the sides, or back. Engage your core so ribs are not lying down on your thigh. Find your breath. All right, and then put your hands down onto the ground, back foot forward. Open up your back. Notice if your Uttanasana is starting to change. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt to fold again. Step your other foot back, left foot is in front now. Come to a lunge this side. Opening up through your legs. Let's start to move when you feel ready. Straightening the front leg. See if you can keep the big toe grounded for a moment, squaring the hips, keeping the spine spacious and long. Your core can support this pose. You can try, if your leg straightens all the way, engaging that quadricep. Keeping your hips square, preventing your spine from collapsing. And ground your legs again. Feel your roots rising up. Crescent lunge. Find your breath. Reach up. Find maybe a teeniest of back bends here. Not enough to compress the back body, but we're using the back body. All right, let's cactus. Open the arms. Feel those muscles on your back engage. And then press forward. You can have your arms out, back, or forward, whatever feels supportive. Heads of the arm bones, if your arms are back, heads of the arm bones are lifting, ribs off your hips or off your legs. Press your legs, engage your core. Feel those muscles. Hands down onto the ground, a dog pose. Feeling that extension here. Come forward into a plank. One more time. Planks are so good for your transverse abdominis, and you can even come down to a forearm plank if you want. Sometimes you can feel it even more with a forearm plank. Breathing deeply, rooting your index finger mounds, shoulders away from the ears. Find the ground. One more time. Arms overhead or down at your sides. Your choice. Everything lifts up. So feel the whole back line that we've been working with. Everything's engaging. And then melt. Put your hands underneath your head. Pick up your feet. And windshield wiper your knees. And we've got one more pose to kind of strengthen the back line of our body, and then we're going to switch directions and start lengthening. Come up to all fours and roll over to your back. We're going to do an active bridge pose. You can stick a block between your thighs if you'd like. It's nice to have that stability. You don't have to do it. For me, when I use a block, it reminds me that I can use my pelvic floor and my low, deep core for some of these postures. So if you're using a block, just have a moment to find that again, to squeeze the block and feel that structural. Think of your spine, or at least your torso, like a cylinder. And if we're just thinking of the belly torso, not the chest also, the top of that cylinder is the diaphragm, the bottom is the pelvic floor, and the sides of the cylinder are the transverse abdominis. So the pressure gradient of hugging that cylinder against the spine is what stiffens the spine and gives it support. So let's find that here for a moment before we lift up into a bridge. Just hug in toward the spine. Feel all of those cylinder supports. And then we're going to keep the block or leave the block, your choice. And we're going to lift up into a bridge pose. Okay, so climb up onto the tops of your shoulders. You can interlace your hands underneath you if your shoulders like that, or you can take your arms down at your sides and press your arms into the earth. Press your feet. Feel, remember those multifidus muscles we were feeling in the beginning? Feel them now. All the back line engaging from heels to shoulders. Big belly breaths. Knees tracking in line with the hips, four corners of your feet grounded. Your neck is soft. And then relax your hips down. Let's windshield wiper our knees left and right. And we'll take a little bit deeper twist again, like we did in the beginning. Hips over to the right, knees come up and drop them to the left. And enjoy a twist. Breathing well. Come on up. Scoot your hips the other way. Knees come up and drop to the side. Twisting the other way. Big breaths here. Stretch your body to a star. Roll around in your ankles. Wiggle your fingers. Exhale, knees into your chest. Round your spine a little bit. And then drop your head down. Let's grab onto our feet for a happy baby pose. So this is a safe place to enjoy the roundedness of your spine. Because we're horizontal with gravity, there's not a lot of pressure coming down on our vertebrae, very different than when we're doing a seated forward bend. So enjoy, your back, just your low back opening up a little bit here. All right. Then put your feet on the ground. Neutral spine for a breath. I'm gonna roll to your side and come up to sit. All right, so grab a blanket and a strap. We're gonna sit on the edge of a blanket. You need your blocks too, so have them handy. Okay. We're gonna start with two legs opening wide, so Upavista Konasana. So wide-legged pose. The sitting on the blanket helps you find a slight anterior tilt of the pelvis. This keeps our low back in that neutral position instead of pushing our low back out, the jelly donuts kind of squeezing out backwards. So a slight anterior tilt to the pelvis with a little, lip of the blanket underneath our sit bones can help support our spine when we come forward. Okay. So open your legs to a place that's comfortable, that you feel spacious, but you're not like at your absolute extreme of your inner thighs. Ground your legs, so root down. This is where we engage our quads, find that reciprocal inhibition. Flex your feet, stretch from your inner thighs to your inner feet. Lift up through your spine. So before we go forward, can you feel the spaciousness of your spine? You can even reach your arms overhead if you want and feel all those muscles that we've been engaging to support your core and your paraspinal muscles. And then when you're ready to come forward, do it with a long, stable, supported spine. So we're using our core. You can have some blocks stacked if you want so that your head can rest in your hands. Now when we come into a restorative forward bend where we rest our head in our hands, this is very nurturing for our nervous system, but we want to be mindful that we're not collapsing once we find our head resting on something. It's very easy once our head has support to just sink and collapse the whole spine. So ground your legs, engage your quads, root your pelvis, lengthen your spine with a little bit of support. You don't have to do an incredible amount of work in your paraspinal muscles and core, but let them be there. You've just woken them all up, so they're alive and awake. So feel the support for your spine. Go as far into the posture as your body says is a safe place for you to be. You can support your head on the blocks or in your hands with your elbows on the blocks. It doesn't matter how deep you go, it's how you go. Root the legs, engage the quads, use your core and back to lengthen your spine. Melt your head, melt your jaw. Can you feel both active and passive? Come back up. Grab onto your legs, crisscross, okay? And just take a simple twist in between. You don't have to push to your deepest twisting place. We're just feeling our spine release a little bit with a twist. And take a couple of breaths and then move to the other side. And now check in with your back. So when you hang out in forward boat poses with your head supported, we're there for, over a minute, so, or even longer. Sometimes we're there for much longer. So notice what the impact, as you return to neutral, are you having any reverberations through your low back? Okay, so always pay attention to how your body's responding. All right, Janu Sirsasana. Right leg is straight, left foot is against your thigh. And you can put a block underneath your knee if you'd like, if your knee, needs some support. Remember, we're still on the edge of that blanket, and then we grab a strap. Okay. So even if you can reach your toes, I think it's good to have a strap because it keeps you long in your spine. You can go just as deep with your elbows bent then, if your arms are straight, it tends to want to round your back a little bit more. So of course you can do it that way, but If you have a strap, try it this way and see what you think. Drop your right femur bone down, engage your quad, find that reciprocal inhibition to teach the hamstring and the calf, oh, I can open. So flex your toes toward your face so your shin muscle and your quadricep muscle are engaged. Feel the reaching of your spine, ground your sit bones, engage your core, and find your way forward. Sometimes once I'm here, I like to take my right hand and put it down next to my right leg so I have a little push to kind of lift my spine up instead of collapsing my spine down. You do you as far as how far you want to go. Remember, it's not how far you go, it's how you go far. So if you're all smushed and collapsed and sinking, yeah, you might get close to your leg, but at what cost? So the core is stiffening around the spine a bit. You don't have to give it everything you've got. The spine is lengthening, the heart is open, the collarbones are broad, the shoulder blades are down, the root of your leg is finding the earth. And of course, find your breath. Back up. Okay. And we'll switch sides. Now you could do this pose, if we were doing restorative poses, I would have you, put 2 blocks with a bolster on top and then head on your hands and, find some deep support. So if you want to do a restorative version and you don't have all those props, maybe you're deep enough in the pose where you can put your elbows down and then rest your head in your hands, either in your fingers or in your palms. So that's one way to do it restoratively. You can always put a block under your knee if your knee needs that kind of support. Okay, strap around. If you're doing it this variation, strap around your foot. Okay, find your sit bones. There's an ever so slight twist toward your straight leg. Lift up through your spine, press your leg down, engage your quad, flex your toes, stretch from your inner groin to your inner foot, and feel that deep length in your body. So these, seated forward bends are so much harder to hold stable than they are if you were lying on your back and putting your leg up in the air with the strap around your foot. So notice that there's a lot more support needed for the spine to stay structurally sound in a pose like this. Drop your shoulders, collar is wide. Breathing as you lengthen. Back up. Okay. Last of the seated ones we'll do is Paschimottanasana. So maybe do a twist in between just so you're checking in. How's your back? Is everything going okay? Like I said, when you're seated, gravity presses down on your spine. So if you do have trouble with your vertebrae and these poses aggravate you, remember you can always do Supta Padangusthasana, where you're lying down and grabbing a strap around your foot or interlacing your hands. It's a similar opening in the hamstring and the calf and the back line, without, because our spine is on the ground, gravity is helping us not to compress our vertebrae. But sometimes it's good to do the seated ones and give that understanding of how to support your core to help you stay upright. With Paschimottanasana, get onto the sit bones. You can move the flesh of your buttocks on that blanket so you feel your sit bones. You could, if you want, just take the strap around your feet. That's great. My favorite way of doing this is to take the strap around the back of the feet, and then I take a loop over the front of each foot with the strap and around the bottom of that foot. So there's like a loop around each foot. And what this does is it enables you to keep that length from inner groin to inner heel. So if your strap is long enough to do that, try that way. And then lift up through your spine. Feel your core support you. You don't have to give it everything you got, but there's enough there to help you lengthen your spine with support. And we'll press our legs down, engage our quads, open our heart, and start to move forward. Feet are flexed, stretch through the inner feet. How's your breath? Incrementally find your way. Notice if you give up and your belly collapses and you sink. See if you can find that structural support of your spinal muscles and your core as you lengthen. And then to open up those paraspinal muscles, you can bow your head and tuck your chin if you'd like to open up the back line of the body while still feeling that transverse abdominis support you. Press your thighs, engage your quad, or press your legs, engage your quads. And then come back up. All right. One more time, but this time instead of twist, we're gonna take the soles of the feet together, elbows into the knees. And this, in this position, first find the length of your spine, but then let your head bow. All right, come back up and we'll find our way to the ground for a simple twist or anything else that is going to support you. You have a couple minutes before Shavasana. I would suggest a reverse pigeon pose and a twist to just kind of let your back find its nurturing way. But maybe your body's like, oh, I want to do a bridge pose on a block and kind of neutralize my spine. So, find what you feel is going to be a healthy position for your body to release the forward bends. For my body, twisting feels good, but sometimes really truly the best thing is just putting a low block under the pelvis and just coming into a low bridge. So you do you. Okay, figure out what feels good, make sure you're breathing. Maybe you want a little hip stretch in there, either reverse pigeon pose or a thigh over thigh like we did in the beginning of class. Whatever feels nice in your body. So try in your practice to really follow intuition. It's nice to be guided and just kind of be told what to do. It's nice. It gives your brain a break from having to be in charge, but it's also very good to pay attention to what your body's asking for. So as you prepare for Shavasana, you might be like, oh, that low bridge just felt so good. I just want to stay here. And that's great. You could start your Shavasana here and then maybe do a little bit of leg up the wall if you want. You can, I would suggest not lying flat. When you come into Shavasana after doing four bends, it's good to have something under your knees. So either, something under your knees or even your calves up on some support. Okay, so again, as you transition into Shavasana, just kind of try to pay attention to what it is that your body's asking. As you find the position that you want to rest in, just take a moment to let your whole body relax in whatever position it's in. Let's begin to deepen our breathing. Maybe a big stretch, or maybe a happy baby, or knees to chest. Do come slowly to your side and up to sit. Take your time. And take a moment to feel your body breathe here. Bring your hands together to your heart. And let's offer the gifts of our practice. Send your energy. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.